Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 58 of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, your somewhat like-minded Nic Cage enjoyer. And to my left today, we have David freaking Reed. How you doing, David?
Not too bad. That's not something I was expecting you to incorporate, but sure, why not?
Yeah. Are you a Baja Blast enjoyer?
Yes, I am
right.
a Baja Blast enjoyer.
Are you a Dr. Pepper enjoyer?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy of the pepper?
Oh, yes. I partake of the pepper.
Yeah. And you know who else partakes of the pepper? Our guest this week, sitting to my right, his name is Nic freaking Gringo!
Not quite as cool as Nicolas Cage, but I'd try. Do a little dragging on.
Yeah,
like
dude, in the movie, it's like, it goes on forever.
It's
like, wow, is this digitally altered? What's going on? Well, speaking of, he is digitally altered, to be fair.
of course. It's like,
Nah, it's just the power of Nic Cage, man.
yeah, the power of Nicky.
you can see his younger self.
And it was spelled Nick. I almost spelled Mickey Mouse. I was like, I was going to start singing the song Mickey. Anyway, welcome back to another entry into the Snarp Fangle saga of our two films series, where we take two films, pair it with a theme, and mash them together and talk about them. We'll do dystopias, we'll do unconventional war films, we'll do all kinds of crazy stuff, even animated holiday flicks. As well as two films that a certain person hasn't seen. For example, our guest here, Nick, was our two film series, which I would kindly recommend, and it's titled Two Films That Jake Hasn't Seen, where we take Jake and sit him in front of two films he never saw before in his life. And what were those films? Well, let me tell you, audience, they were Gladiator and The Rock. Did I like them? What did the crew think? To find out more, take a listen to that episode when you're done with this one you're currently listening to on our Snarp Fangle YouTube page. And again, for comments, concerns, hate mail, and general thoughts, and what your favorite Nic Cage movie is, send them on over. snarpfanglepod@gmail.com. Or you can just text Jake. All right, gentlemen, we're here once again, and we're here to talk about two different films. Nick, what are we talking about today?
The Wicker Man, the Nicolas Cage one, and then I always mess up the title of this.
Unbearable.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Quite the mouthful.
And what's the theme? Well, people already know it from the title, but yes,
Nicolas Cage. I mean, is there another theme?
Yeah, exactly. Two Nic Cage films. So
Yeah, I mean, we figured we had to have the ultimate Nic Cage enjoyer on for our Nic Cage 2 films episode. So
he's very distinct. I say he's not very, versatile per se, but he's very distinct and
distinct.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's what they say. When you're not versatile, just being distinct. You know?
yeah, he's kind of like the opposite of a character actor.
Yeah, he is the character.
He is the character. He's the main character. Yeah, coming up with this idea, it was funny because I think we were talking about it after our last two films, the one I mentioned earlier, and I was like, oh, what should we do? And you're like, how about two Nicolas Cage movies? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then we decided on a definitely Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That was the other one. And I'm like, what else do we do?
Well, we had, we actually had,
because I wanted to watch
we had
Pig.
we had it planned before.
Oh,
it was gonna be Wicker Man, and then I think it was Color Out of Space.
Oh, that was it,
which
yeah.
I haven't seen.
Neither have I.
And then when Nick came along, I think was you who brought up Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? I don't remember.
You brought up you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, because David and I originally were going to watch it when it first came out, but life things happened with and we weren't able to do it, and so I still hadn't seen it yet. So I think that's how it kind of came about. That we're like, let's do it.
Yes, that's what it was. Yes. So we decided to drop the Color Out of Space, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, I'm glad we did too. And I wanted to watch Pig, but that seems a little bit more serious for my Nic Cage taste, Also, I need to see more classic Nic Cage before I see more new, I would say.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Just I hadn't realized how many movies he's actually been in. Man,
He's been in so many.
Yeah, I guess you had to pay for all those castles.
Well, I mean, when you're the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, then
I thought you said niece for a second.
No,
my brain was totally
no.
Yeah, the nephew. Yeah, I was reading some stuff that he is a Coppola, and I was like, is he from the Coppola?
The
family?
Coppolas.
Yeah, he is indeed.
And he is, yeah. So
and his father was also his father wasn't a movie director, I don't think, but his father was also quite involved in Hollywood as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny when you find that like most actors and actresses are all connected in some way to somebody in the past in movies. Like it's not necessarily like a Taylor Swift you found on YouTube or something like that. It's like everybody's. If you look far enough, they're pretty well connected into Hollywood.
Yeah, I did not know he was a Coppola until literally yesterday. So
wow,
pretty cool. Pretty interesting. So like him and Sophia are like they're cousins basically. He's the nephew of Mr. Francis Ford.
Yes.
So okay.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. I also wonder how old Nic Cage is, but we'll get to that eventually. Let's move on to our first film, gentlemen. I'll introduce us to The Wicker Man, a tale where we follow Edward Mullis, or however you pronounce it. Doesn't matter. A confident but somewhat talented sheriff from California. While investigating a missing girl leads him to discover he's a father and embarks on a search for his daughter, the girl, her mother, and the cult they are connected to on a lonely island off of the state of Washington. Well, quite a very short film description there. Absolutely. I mean, wow. So anyway, let me go through who directed this and then we'll get into our thoughts here. So directed and written by a guy named, David might have to help me out on this pronunciation. It's Neil LaBute or LaBute, B-L-A-B-U-T-E. L-A-B-U-T-E. Neil LaBute? LaBute?
I don't know.
It might be French.
Labute.
No,
No, I don't know. It's probably Labute.
Yeah. Starring Nicolas Cage, Ellen Burstyn, Frances Conroy, Kate Behan, and Molly Parker. Surprisingly. Wow, we did not know that. With a budget of $40 million, gentlemen, and then a box office of a whopping huge number of 38 million, shy of 2 million shy of 40.
Seems expensive for that movie with all the stuff in it. It's like
not counting marketing.
Fair,
for that budget, which is
and Nicolas Cage's fee, of course.
To be fair, it did
has a cult following now.
It did better in the box office than Snow White just did.
Oh, you're dating our podcast already. No, I'm joking. How much did that make, by the way?
That was 43 million, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I heard the project.
But that's in 2025 money, not 2006 money. The projected budget was reported to be 250 million, but many are speculating that it's higher than that.
God.
And I think the general consensus was that the movie needed to make like 600 million just to break even, all things considered.
Dang, why is it so expensive?
That's so expensive. Well, Disney always goes
all that CGI
so overboard with all their stuff, and it's just unfortunate. It's not sustainable at all.
No.
I mean,
it may be a Marvel movie, but I think they're almost playing that one out. So
it's not sustainable for Marvel anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, even like the new Spider-Man that they're developing right now, it's speculated. There's a rumor going around, rumors. So who knows? But there's a rumor going around that Marvel wants a more kind of Spider-Man boots swinging through the air of New York City instead of swinging through the multiverse kind of storyline. But Sony is like, hey, that multiverse story we did with No Way Home. No Way Home made a lot of friggin' money. So what if we kind of incorporate a little bit more Spider-Verse into this and do a little multiverse kind of film instead? And I'm like, I would love to have just a film where it's like in New York City, he literally has no friends from how No Way Home ended. and Wilson Fisk is the mayor. There's so much cool stuff you could do. Daredevil's on Disney Plus right now, so there's that storyline. You could have him make a cameo. There's a lot of cool things you could do, but then I heard whispers that maybe X-Men characters are going to be in this too. So it's like, what the heck is going on? So they're probably going to go a multiverse route to make that money. So
yeah, they're desperate for whatever idea will get them some box office revenue.
Yeah. So, and speaking of box office, ending it here, this movie has a runtime of just 1 hour and 42 minutes. Gentlemen, let's get our general thoughts out of The Wicker Man. What did we think about this film? What's our first impressions? I got a little bit to say about this film, and it's not positive. That's what I'll say. David, let's go to you.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so good.
In
that aspect,
in an unintentional way. It wasn't. You can tell it wasn't made to be a comedy. They intended to make a serious movie, but it doesn't come off that way. It's hilarious.
Oh God, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the performance from Nic Cage, it's full. What do you say, Nick? It's full Nic Cage.
I wouldn't say it's full Nic Cage. I think it's
like 75%.
Maybe towards the end. At the beginning, it's kind of like him trying to be a normal guy, like a normal actor, whatever, and like trying to hide his Nicolas Cageisms. I was like, but then definitely like halfway through, like David was calling it yesterday, was like the break, and when he's gonna have the break, and then he breaks, and then he goes full Nic Cage for the rest of the movie. It's just
turns into Wolverine. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be like 20 minutes, David, and then sure enough. 25 minutes later, he's like, he's just like smacking a woman in a bear suit. And
that was hilarious. Yeah, the way he starts to get violent with everybody.
And him going through the whole, we'll get into it. But yeah. What, so David, you're like, it was not a good movie.
Yeah. From a filmmaking perspective, not a great movie. Incredibly entertaining though. One of the best comedies, I think. One of the best unintentional comedies I think I've seen.
Kind of like The Room, maybe?
Yeah.
But not as bad.
Yeah, kind of like...
This is way better than The Room.
Yeah, I've only seen bits and pieces of The Room, but from what I hear, I think The Room is a lot more over the top than this. But this definitely has its moments where you just laugh out loud because things are so absurd.
Well, David, Nick, what did you think about this Wicker Man film, the remake from the 1973 classic with Christopher Lee of all people?
Dum dum.
So, what did we get an upgrade from Christopher Lee in this movie?
I don't know. I still haven't seen the original one either, but from what you're saying, it's like it's a little more. I don't say disturbing or whatever. But it's a little more. I
heard the original one. Yeah. I've seen no footage at all. I've just seen like the poster. But apparently it's like, it was rated, I think, XX or X back in the day. It was like grotesque, blood and guts and nudity, a ton of stuff, which they took all that out of, well, mostly in this new one. So
yeah, which is kind of weird that they took out all, like I said, that was my kind of shocking part, was that they actually took out like one of the best known scenes of it in the actual movie. We had to look it up on YouTube to find the actual scene.
I love how
everybody kind of knows,
it's like that scene is a deleted scene.
Yeah, which is
That's
crazy.
so
It's like that kind of makes the whole thing, because it kind of like did like an audio of it, which we'll talk when we get to there. But it's like they didn't actually do the visual part. We had to look up the visual part on YouTube, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, it starts out kind of. We were joking that it has the Ghost Rider, I think, because he has the leather jacket.
Yeah, he's got being a biker
cop, pulling people off the road, giving them tickets and all this stuff. Is how it kind of starts out, and it's like. And again, him kind of being a little bit more of like a normal guy, I guess, as close as you can be. He just doesn't have many encounters. But then when he starts talking, with the whole thing, he swoops down, pick up the baby and hands it to the girl or whatever and stuff like that. And it's just, I think it's it has Nicolas Cage vibes to it, just because it's kind of weird and awkward. It's like, but it definitely sets a little bit of like a uneasiness in me. Like the thing of it's disturbing. Definitely has some disturbing vibes in it, and I guess that kind of sets with the awkwardness at the beginning with that. So
yeah, it definitely has like a like a suspenseful eeriness to it. I would equate it to just one of our other films we talked about during the two films, one of the two films episodes, which was Oh God, Shutter Island. It comes off, at least in the beginning, in the opening scene as he's going around, a little bit like a psychological thriller.
Yeah, I
that
can
we're
see-
about
yeah,
to
yeah.
enter into with the music and the way that's edited and the directing. From what I could tell, that's what was communicated to me. And it had me all until the truck ran to the car.
Yeah,
And then I'm
it's
like, oh, all bets are off. And he starts reacting in the way he does.
Yeah.
And he just, and which is, it's pretty normal. And then like, he just wakes up somewhere in his house, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, here we go. What are we getting into? Yeah, this film was weird for me. I knew going into all the like famous bits, like the memery of it all, the why is it broken or no, why is it burned or
How to get burned.
How to get burned. He doesn't say it
Nicolas
twice.
Cage. Yeah.
He says like 4 times. It was that, and then the bear, and then not the bees, of course. So.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a poster I found that was just super photoshopped of just a honeycomb, a bee on top, and the logo of the movie behind it. It was so random. But yeah, I in terms of positives, let me get the positives out of the way. I think it's really neat, the whole theme of bees and what this island really is. It being a kind of a bee colony, kind of,
yeah.
and it's kind of mirroring how bees interact. And it's like taking, for those who haven't seen it, this is basically, you're on the island, you have all these people that are, a cult, and they're basically mirroring their society as how bees live. And there's a queen, all the males are doing most all the work. The females are doing a lot of the work. The males are only used for specific purposes. And it's like, very weird and strange and just straight out of the 70s, like that's how I would equate it to. And I like that theme a lot. And I think it's kind of unique and something we don't see a whole lot of, I think, mainstream wise or just movies in general that I've seen. So it was cool to see that kind of concept, but in terms of execution, that's another story. So, and also the Nic Cage factor, I feel like if there was anybody else, this movie would be incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And I feel like he adds a lot. Nearly all the best bits are from him in this film. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think it's not a great film, not even a good film, but it's a fun watch. Like I think I wrote down in my notes is get some, I mean, I don't drink, but if you guys want, get some beers together and get some friends and just on a Saturday night, just put this movie on and just have a really good time. Cause like the reaction, the over the topness from Nicolas Cage is just, it's on a whole nother level. Like it's something you should see in your life at the very, very least. So, but I do want to say one thing. So the editing was really bad. It was really, really just extremely noticeable. And I'm like, what is happening here? And it seems like they kind of knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't. I could see what they were trying to do in some of the scenarios, but it was executed just really poorly. Like the whole scene of him going to the barn, him falling through the floor of the barn in the second floor, and then like recovering and like pulling himself up. And then boom, it just cuts to him in the next morning in a chair. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Is that a dream? What was
and the music, like the music's super tense. Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Oh yeah, of course he does. So I don't know. What did you guys think of just the weird aspect of that? I want to get into the director too, but what's the weirdest stuff in this film that really stood out to you? And why does Nic Cage make everything so much better?
One thing that really stood out to me is like you said, the editing. It's just like all these like dramatic cuts, like everywhere. Like it builds up tension and then boom, it cuts to something else all the time. And the music is super dramatic, like way more dramatic than it needs to be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because that is weird. Yeah, because like I said, the music, is like trying to get your like adrenaline going and like that, but like the scene isn't necessarily like an adrenaline scene per se. And I was like, so they're definitely kind of like playing with your emotions just with the music.
And
it's like,
yeah, it's like the scenes too, like the kind of what or at least what I think they're going for in this movie is like, scenes like that need to be intense because of the performance.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're trying to use the overly dramatic music to make up for the lack of intensity in the performances or something.
Yeah, it was interesting too. Yeah, because a lot of the actor or actresses, because there's a lot of actresses, and that are like professional actresses. So
they're really they're great stuff.
They're actresses who've been in like pretty big movies and stuff like that. I don't know, like I said, how far into their careers that was, but they're all decent actresses. So it's like. Because I said going into this, I had just watched like 2 really bad movies. Just like they're like the scary movies that are like totally like the worst acting ever.
Like Sharknado,
Sharknado type things are really like that. And so coming in from that, this is a step up. But it's like, but
this is a movie.
Yeah,
you could tell that they're. I mean Though the arguments still, even in this, were like a little more staged, kind of like they had the stage feeling, whereas like in a high-end movie, like you don't necessarily feel like it's a staged argument. The other weird thing that kind of stood out to me was like most of the people on the island are kind of incomplete thoughts, which I know that's kind of part of the thing of it, is to kind of give you, to make your mind go like, what's going on here? It's like, but there's only like 2 people who he like has a conversation with who have like real normal people conversation. Everybody else on the island has like these kind of like half conversations where they like seems like they're more like talking about something else than he's talking about. Yeah, it's all
like through innuendo and stuff.
Yeah.
Talking to him. It's bizarre. So.
And so it's weird. Like because you have the 2 people who, the queen or the heart of the island, and then the bartender lady or whatever, like the only 2 who kind of like talk normal. It's like everybody else, is talking like kind of mysteriously and stuff. Which I guess again is part of the theme of it, because again, obviously, I guess it also shows trying to portray that you're on an island and you don't get much connection to the outside world, and so it's like definitely was odd for that. That's kind of one thing that really stood out to me was. That, which I think is probably part of what they were going for, because again, you're on an island, you don't see people unless they are part of the island. So,
yeah, something that stood out to me in this was, and again, like all these actresses are in great stuff, and I've seen Molly Parker specifically. I'm like, holy crap, that's the chick from House of Cards. As I can't remember the chick's her name in that show, but she's a great actress. Yeah, and I guess she was also in Deadwood, which I heard she was great in, and just a bunch of other stuff. And I've seen Ellen Bernstein in different things, as well as just a couple others. Frances Conroy sounds like a very familiar name to me. Like I've seen these people in different things, and they've done they're great actresses. But to have them in this, it's very, very strange. Like they're not bad in this at all. It's just they weren't given a whole lot to work with.
Yeah, the dialogue, the dialogue really needed some work.
Yeah,
like I get what they were going for, but they needed to have much more grounded dialogue that that could draw the viewer into the experience a little bit more, in order to sell what they were trying to achieve. And then some of the dialogue is just like, did a 5-year-old write this? Like the whole like, is this some kind of shark?
Yeah, it's
like what?
It's moving around like a body's in the bag. It was like, oh, is that a shark? It's like it's like totally out of place, the whole scene or whatever.
It's like what? Like what about any part of that scene would lead that character to think there's a shark in that bag?
We're on an island, so there's gonna be sharks, right? And like I was like, it's like it definitely seemed like a bit of a reach. It's like,
I mean, are there many sharks off the coast of the Pacific Northwest?
I don't know. I was like,
I don't know. Yeah, is this a prequel to Ghost Rider, by the way? Like in the beginning, he's on a motorcycle and. It's Nicolas Cage. Like, what was it called? What did we describe on the last one you were on? It was there's different different Pokemon phases of Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
You have his Charmander phase, his Charmeleon phase, and his Charizard phase. He's in his Charizard phase right now. This was during, I think, his Charmeleon, the middle evolution.
Yeah. Because he's got the jacket now.
Yeah, he's got a jacket now. He's not just wearing a tank top. He's going not complete Nic Cage, but. He does go over the top in this, and I think that it saves this movie from not being completely forgettable.
Yeah,
because I get it. I gotta say, the director who also wrote it, like I don't like the editing at all, and I know he was probably involved in that too. But to get the chance to make your own film and direct and write it and release it, that's a big achievement in itself to get it through the door. You know, but to get it executed in a way that's just not very good is makes it a forgettable film. But the Nic Cage factor saves this. And apparently, what were we talking about? It was, I think I have it in the trivia here, but it was somebody introduced Nic Cage to the original film.
It was Johnny Ramone.
Johnny Ramone, of all people, introduced it to the original film. And then I think the director, introduced him to the script. Like, hey, I made another, we were doing a remake of The Wicker Man and I want you in it. So it's really interesting how this all came together. Just different people knew each other and different, like, and same thing with Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Like, that script was on the blacklist for years, apparently. And then it finally got picked up. I think it was like one of the #1 scripts in 2019. And then 2022 is when we get the movie.
You know what's really interesting too is I almost feel like this movie is the kind of film that Nic Cage in our next film would be trying to get involved with in order to revitalize his career.
Yeah. I was feeling that too, actually, when we came in here, we're setting up. I was like, it is kind of like from the Massive Talent one, it's like, it definitely is something along those vibes. You know, he's looking for a script. It's like, this will work. This will get me my money.
And it really, I mean, it really gives me that vibe too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Nic Cage is the producer on this film, right?
He produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really seems like a little moment from that film.
It's like, so true to this.
Yeah, it's like weird.
It would be interesting to see the older version and see how the script is for that one and see if it's any better, or if they like how, you know, directly they translated it from the took it from the old script.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Let's just get into the IMDb trivia here. So, Robin Hardy, director and co-writer of the original film, and Christopher Lee, who played Summer Isle in the original film, were both critical of the remake. Hardy had his name removed from the film's credits as he did not wish to be associated with it. Dang. All right, #2. And famously, this film was not screened for critics back in 2006. Well, makes a lot of sense. Apparently, around the same time this came out, the movie Crank with Jason Statham also came out. That also was not screened for critics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, #3. The film was originally rated, and they say 18 here, so rated R, for extreme violence, disturbing images, language, and thematic elements. But director Neil LaBeouf, I'm going to say LaBeouf, wanted a broader audience, so they cut most of the scenes out, some of which have been included in the unrated version of the DVD to deem it 12 or PG-13. However, there are about 4 minutes of additional cut footage that are not shown in the unrated DVD.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the scene of Not the Bees.
Yeah.
That was a deleted scene, and that went on for, it's funny enough, 4 minutes. But
yeah,
it's so funny how this was going to be, you know, R-rated like the original, and probably to a much tamer degree. We got a little bit of glimpse of it in the deleted Not the Bees scene with them breaking his legs.
Yeah.
But man, what was this film like? I kind of I'm really intrigued to see this unrated version and what was in it. Like, does he, like, when he's punching the lady as the bear, does she fall on a pitchfork or something? Like, I want to know.
Well, she's there at the end, so she couldn't have died. No,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Everybody's like back there at the end, which is like, spoiler alert.
Honestly, I didn't even know that this had an unrated version. If I had known, I would have pushed for us to watch the unrated version.
Yeah, totally.
I only had to pay $1.62 for this on the rental on Amazon. So
yeah, because
money well spent, let's say.
They cut out a lot of like the stuff that kind of was like nostalgia. I feel for again stuff that we know even not watching the movie, the scenes. It's kind of like, how can you have those as the cut scenes of the stuff that actually the things that people know the movie for? You know, it's kind of weird.
I mean, I guess to be fair, they had no way of knowing what was going to be the iconic moment of the Not the Bees scene. Fair. You know.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because apparently I didn't include it in here, but there's little tributes to, or I did include it, so we'll get to it, but there's little tributes in the film to the original. Oh, like in the background in the police station, there are little nameplates like "Wanted, this man," and that's the director of the original, for example, or the original writer, for example. So little itty bitty bits like they actually cared about and included in the, just even in the background and stuff. And instead of Summer Isle, they called the character Summer's Isle. just, I don't know why. I think we explained. I'll explain it later, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and the one thing too is apparently the typeface for the opening credits was the same as the original movie too, which
it's
you
not
were
papyrus.
like pirate. Jake was like,
papyrus,
it's papyrus,
guys."
it's papyrus. But papyrus did not exist when the OG Wicker Man came out. Found out it's codex.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, David, because you seem to know a little bit more about fonts than I do. But don't all fonts originate from a sans or a papyrus?
No,
They don't.
no.
Oh, okay.
So
I could have
sans.
swore they do.
No, sans is your sans, like Comic Sans and fonts that have sans in their name are a much later evolution because the original distinction between a lot of different fonts was whether they were sans serif or not. So sans serif means it doesn't have the little it doesn't have all the little flourishes at the edges of the lettering like Times New Roman does.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's
Times New Roman has the, I don't know if
little curly bits,
the little curly bits at the end
parts.
So a font that is sans serif doesn't have those. Like an example of that would be Arial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Montserrat, you know.
Yeah. So
I'm a Helvetica man myself. I like Helvetica.
So yeah, the whole naming of having sans in the name of fonts was kind of like as a reference to certain fonts being sans serif.
Yeah, Merriweather's a little too hard to read. Same with Times New Roman. It's a little too official. You know,
I've always been a fan of Times New Roman.
Yeah,
I am too, but my old age is weakening my eyes, David. And I just need more rounder letters.
more round.
All right, continuing on. Nicolas Cage objected to the criticism that the film was unintentionally funny, saying that he and Neil LaBeouf knowingly made the picture an absurdist black comedy and that it should have been seen and judged as such. And over the years, several times, Nic Cage mentioned that he is very proud with the film and his performance in it. I'm actually proud of him too in it. Let's be real.
I mean, he makes the film.
He makes it.
Like you say, because if anybody else did like the bee scene or whatever, I don't think it would have the same effect. It's like, again, he definitely brought the publicity to it, I feel. Because like I said, the other actresses are all big name actresses, but it's like, they just kind of were. They were. It was like, his overacting and stuff like that.
Also,
really
to be
played
fair,
to it.
a lot of them we knew for big stuff later on.
True.
Like 2006, I think Deadwood was the only thing Molly Parker was in that was super notable at the moment. I'm sure there was other things, but that's what she's known for before House of Cards came around like 5 years later.
Yeah, and Lost in Space. Yeah,
and Lost in Space. I totally forgot about that. So yeah, it's just funny. Like all these are really amazing actresses that we see in this, and it's like, oh, like, which is cool. Like I'm glad none of the acting was like super, super horrible. Or I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about the acting in general? Do you think it was just bad, or was it just bad dialogue? Or?
It wasn't. The acting wasn't bad. It was functional.
Yeah.
But I think most of the thing is they just didn't really have that much to work with. The dialogue was not good.
Yeah.
It varied from functional to comically bad.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie. And so if I could extrapolate something from the writing, since it was written and directed by the same guy, my guess is that the director did not do a very good job of bringing the best out of the actors and actresses in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's probably where my leaning is as well. Is I feel like it was partly the direction. I think it's mostly the direction in this film. I mean, the dude also wrote the film.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
like we get these outbursts and these, absurdist takes of I almost said Liam Neeson, Nic Cage, Nic Cage, which Liam Neeson, if he went full like just crazy, like imagine like this 06, like 06, like before Taken, Liam Neeson like tries to do an absurdist black comedy, and instead of Nic Cage, it's Liam Neeson. He probably played as a straight man, but man, would it have been? It would be a very different movie, we'll say. But
yeah,
I think in summary, I think it is a lot on the direction. Like a lot of the takes that we get of Nic Cage, either he said go crazier and that's the take they went with, or he said tone it down and that's the take we went with. Because I feel like a lot of the delivery of a lot of the dialogue is very flat, very bland, and just it feels like the director should have done more with what he had, because he had great people to work with.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
excuse me, he had talented people, I should say, to work with.
Nic Cage's performance stands out because it's Nic Cage.
Yeah,
you don't need a director to bring Nic Cage out of Nic Cage. He's capable of doing it himself. But these other actresses doing stuff that's not Nic Cage stuff, you know, they could have probably used some better direction.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's like a group of people who kind of like, there's that very small sect of The Room fans that say that's actually a good film because it's supposed to be what it is. And I feel like with this, I would 100% bet there are a certain sect of fans that say, no, because of this, and this, that's why it's intended to be like this. Like the flat dialogue in Phantom Menace. No, that's intentional. That's why it's bad. It's like
poetry and rhyme.
Yeah, it's like poetry. So number 6, Edward Woodward, what a name, star of the original Wicker Man in 1973, has said that while he was offered a part in the remake and declined, he nevertheless was surprisingly impressed by the quality of the script. Nonetheless, the name of the young girl was changed from Rowan Morrison in the original to Rowan Woodward for this film as a tribute.
Oh,
that's
interesting.
Number 7, in Robin Hardy and Anthony Schaefer's original The Wicker Man, the island is called Summer Isle. The producers of the remake decided to change it to Summer's Isle because they thought it would be easier for Americans to pronounce. Okay.
Would it?
I was like,
well, Christopher Lee was in the original. I think it's a British film.
Yeah, Christopher Lee. Yeah, because it actually has him as Lord Summer Isle. So was there a king bee in the original? Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Well, I believe. I'm guessing Christopher Lee's character is the analog to the sister Summer Isle in the. So instead of, which is weird too, because it's like everyone
was it a bunch of
in the remake they all called it, they all call each other sisters.
Yeah.
So but then Christopher Lee's character in the original is called Lord Summer Isle. So I wonder if they like there was like some kind of hierarchy in the original film that they sort of took out to reinforce the whole communal, culty, hippie sort of
and make it a little more hive-ish
thing.
Too. It's like, and it's Tickle Hive, like Jake was talking about at the beginning, is, it's mainly run by the women bees, do most of the stuff. Whereas like in this, it's more like the man lording.
Oh, okay.
So I can see maybe that is the twist that they added into it to make it a little bit more their own.
More different, their own, which is cool. Like again, like there's some cool things this film does compared to the original, at least, that make it stand out and make it creative. But again, could have been executed better, I guess. And it's so funny because I just brought up Liam Neeson and I totally forgot I put this in here. Liam Neeson and Robert Carlyle were both considered in the starring role. That's so funny.
I could almost see Liam Neeson doing it though.
Yeah.
So he might be able to pull it off almost as well as Nicolas Cage. I could see him doing the bees. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like those isms can only come with one actor, and it's the Cage. So
yeah, that's the thing too. Is this movie? I mean, Nic Cage is the producer on this movie, so I wonder if this movie would even have got off the ground if not for his involvement.
Oh, yeah.
Number 9, Nicolas Cage went on to star. Oh God, I forgot this movie exists. In the film Season of the Witch in 2011, which co-starred Christopher Lee, who appeared in the original Wicker Man. It all comes full circle. It's like poetry, David. It rhymes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, number 10. This is the last one. And spoilers, by the way, and then we're going to get into spoilers. During the ending, when Edward is burned inside the Wicker Man, the little girl was very reluctant. The actress, her name was Erica, was very reluctant to carry the burning torch and act the scene of burning her own father. According to the director's commentary, the filmmakers lied to her, telling her that Edward would find a way to escape in order so she would do the same. That's terrible.
I mean,
it's not as the worst thing Hollywood's done to kids, but that's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, in real life, he escaped because he goes on to make the next movie. But like,
wait, what?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I figure that's just one of those things you have to do working with child actors.
Yeah.
From time to time, you probably have to tell them something a little bit different than the actual direction's going to go sometimes if it's too dark of a scene or whatever.
Yeah, when I found out all the crappy, amazingly terrible things they did to oh shoot, the chick who was Dorothy, what's her name? Gosh dang it. I can't remember. I have to go.
You mean The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, in The Wizard of Oz.
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. When I found out because I heard about, like, my mom told me growing up about it, I just forgot about him, and then I re-found out about it, and I was like, holy crap, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And I remember like hearing with Shirley Temple back in the day, they would like legit tell her during the crying scenes, like, your dog. We just got a call from your mom. Your dog died at home. And like, that's how they would get her to cry. It's like, holy crap, this is horrible.
Yeah, I would say what they did in this movie is
pretty tame.
Much better way to handle things than that.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into spoilers and then we'll move on to our next film. But yeah, I want to know what you guys, in full detail, what your final thoughts on this film are. Because again, it's not a great film. It's just fun to watch for the Cageisms. And it's just super great in that aspect. And it's funny because at this point in his career, I would argue he's probably a parody of himself. But it's, for some reason, it still works really, really, really well.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that he was a parody of himself by this point. Because this, I feel like, was his comeback era.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
He had his classic movies in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Con Air, The Rock. But then, so around this time, he starts to make a comeback. You have Gone in 60 Seconds. You have this movie. National Treasure, Ghost Rider. So this is him kind of like coming back onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call this his comeback phase.
It's the Charmeleon.
And then eventually he moves on to his more recent phase where it's just totally embracing the Cage. And that's all he's making movies for anymore. It's just the Cageisms.
Keep the legacy.
Like the next film.
Yeah. What do you got, Nick?
For me, kind of in closing, it was like, I was telling David, one of the things that was kind of funny was, it reminded me, because the ending scene, they're in the bar and they get the next guy basically lined up. And when I was up in Washington, when I was in the service, I turned 21 when I was overseas, and we finally went out drinking. And I went out drinking, and there was this lady at the end of the bar, and she like kind of gave me the nod, like, hey, type thing. And I just went about my business. I'm like, I could have been the Wicker Man. I'm like, I was like, messaged me 14 years later, like, you got a kid, come to this island. I was like, I'd be like, no,
not the beast, not the meat beast, not the meat beast.
I feel like I missed a bullet there, and so I was like,
your life turned out pretty good after that, I'd say.
Yeah, I said it leaves you uneasy at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So they were successful in that, as far as I feel, getting across the awkward weirdness of it, which, like I said, maybe partially because of the script and all that, but it's like also just the concept and all that is a little like.
I think I read somewhere that they kept most of the dialogue the exact same from the original, which is kind of perplexing to me. I'm like, but you changed all the other stuff and not the dialogue?
Yeah.
I question that. I don't believe that.
That would be
I would have to see the original.
That would be fascinating if true.
Because again, you switch the concept we haven't seen the film, but if the concept was really just dudes, and then you do just women, and then you bring this hive aspect into it,
you gotta change the dialogue.
You gotta change the dialogue. It's like, it makes a lot of sense.
Not just he's and she's.
Yeah. So I feel like the word to use for this film is just awkward.
Yeah.
The editing's awkward. All the acting from all the actresses is awkward. You could argue Nic Cage is very awkward in this film in all aspects, not just the crazy outbursts and the outrageousness, absurdity of it all, but also in just the regular dialogue he has. He's very awkward and very just put offishness, if that's a word. Like, it's just very strange.
That's just
He's a very
Nicolas
strange
Cage,
man. Very strange character.
Yeah, like I think you said this while we were watching it. It's like the times where he's trying to act normal, it comes off even weirder.
Yes.
It's very strange.
Nicolas Cage just has to go full Nicolas Cage. You can't do a little bit of trying to be a normal guy. It's like Nicolas Cage just has to be.
Ooh, you know what the next two Nic Cage there's so many Nic Cage films, first off.
He made a lot of movies.
I want to do, because I've never seen Mandy, which is the one where he's like I don't know what it's about. It's like him with hair and it's purple and he's got an axe and he smiles at the camera real creepily and it's, I don't know what it's about, but I remember people saying he goes full Nicolas Cage. And also Longlegs. I totally forgot that came. And do you know what that is?
I haven't seen it. No.
It's a horror movie. An up and coming indie film horror guy got a big chance or it's a chick actually. And she made this film called Longlegs last year. And it was very interesting trailer. It's like very ominous, weird, strange. Has to do probably something with a serial killer. And I think Nic Cage plays the serial killer, but you don't see his face through the whole film.
Weird.
And until the end, probably. And then it gets revealed it's Nic Cage. And we knew it was him in the trailers because he talks, but we don't know the face. So it's like this mystery. You don't see him as a killer, but you see his like the lower half of his mouth and the rest of his body, and he's killing these people. And it's like a very, very people have compared it to like Hereditary, which I know is also very disturbing. But it'd be cool to pair that with like Mandy, like two bloody Nic Cage films or something. I don't know. So, or we can do another actor, which David, we got it. We're not going to say what it is. You'll see, audience.
Surprise actor.
Surprise. David's looking at me like, which one are you talking about?
Exactly. There's a lot of actors.
Exactly. And my final thoughts. Again, this is a really fun watch. It's a fun watch. Like, just get your family together, people you love to hang out with, or friends and family, and just put it on and have a blast. Like, if you like Nic Cage, you're going to like this film because of him. And he does save the whole thing. I can't believe Liam Neeson was considered for this. Like, I kind of get it, but I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way this movie would have been watchable without Nic Cage.
Yeah.
It totally failed.
It would be forgotten with time.
Yeah, as a serious production, it totally fails.
And I feel like, at least in terms of history, this film has surpassed the original, where this is talked about more than the original because of all the things we mentioned here during our discussion. But again, you could there's so many places of improvement in this film, but you just kind of take it as the mess it is, and you just like, oh, okay. And Nic Cage is right there. So you're like, you know what? It's a mess, but it's an enjoyable mess.
Yeah, just enjoy the absurdity of it all.
Just go with the unrated version. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to. I don't know if I'd watch it again just for the unrated stuff, but if there's like 10 minutes of stuff that was cut out because it was too bloody or more F words or whatever. Also, by the way, one thing I really in PG-13 you get one F word, right?
Okay.
Usually, and I refrain from language like that, but
technically you don't get one F word. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple.
It's not that simple.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It depends on the context.
Yeah, it depends on the context.
But when you get it, it's like you better use it correctly.
Better mean something.
Like, it better be used in an accent or like that's really, really like thick, or it's got to be in like a really unique way or a very great delivery. And Nic Cage has a wonderful delivery of just dropping the F-bomb there. And it's so satisfying. Like, in my mind, I want like a very country-minded Australian fella to say the F word in my future film. Because if I'm allowed one, that's going to be the guy say like, what the hell is going on? Like you better, if you get it, it's a tool. You got to use it correctly. So anyway, that's my rant on the very few F words you're allowed in a PG-13.
One last thing too on that is like we didn't talk about the fight scenes at all, but it's like at the end it's like it's pretty tame for the most part. Then at the end, all of a sudden Nicolas Cage just goes crazy and just starts punching and kicking everybody. He's doing this like karate stuff, and it's like kind of funny because like, you know, here he is beating all these women, and it was like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
It's like,
and dude,
like body slamming them, and
and when he goes through the town and he's like going door to door, I'm like, yeah, no wonder they want to kill him. This guy is like, just like, oh, I'm a cop. No, screw you. Like, you came to this island without permission, which is not illegal, but okay. And number two, you're going door to door, like harassing everybody, women, children, and the men. I don't care if you saved one of them from logs falling on them. Like, dude, You can't just go around doing this. Like, you are going to get, if the law doesn't get you, the cultists will. So, speaking of cultists, it was so funny because this takes place in Washington, off on an island. Guys, I know you guys don't care about this, but this is basically a prequel to Last of Us Part 2. Because in that game, you got cultists who are on an island off the coast of Washington. Holy cow.
Here.
So basically what you're saying is
Neil Druckmann was inspired by the Wicker Man remake, and he wrote them in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. There's a lot of biking in this movie is what I wrote down.
Bicycling, not
bicycling.
Yeah.
Cycling, yes.
Cycling, yes.
Not well, there is some motorcycling. Just in the beginning, that's it.
There's a few motorbiking scenes, and that's about it. Yeah, and we rented it. I had a little bit of Amazon credit, so it only cost me like $1, but it's worth the rent.
Oh yeah,
it's still worth the rent. Like $4. Heck, buy it $10 for the HD version and rewatch it a couple times. It's totally worth it. So, anyway, Bad Attitude prequel to maybe Ghost Rider and Last of Us Part 2. Then we'll see. Anyway, next one.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, gentlemen. Our second film is The Unbearable Weight. Bearable weight of massive talent. When famous actor Nic Cage arrives at the lowest place in his life, an opportunity arrives from a mega fan of his who just so happens to be rich and also part of the cartel. Directed by Tom Garmican and written by Tom Garmican with pen original script by Kevin Etten, starring Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal, Tiffany Haddish, and for some reason, Neil Patrick Harris. Budget of $30 million, box office, and remember, this is 2022, so Hollywood's coming right out of the pandemic. It only made about $29 million compared to the budget of 30, which this is a great film for that budget. Like, and they did amazing. Like, this was great. And apparently they filmed in Croatia instead of Spain.
Okay.
To save money. And you totally can't tell, at least from what I know. I live in California, so I don't know if Croatia and Spain look different. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, runtime of an hour and 47 minutes, roughly. Wait, is it the exact same? Oh, 5 minutes longer than the Wicker Man, but yeah, an hour and 47 minutes. And guys, what did we think? What are our general thoughts of The Unbearable Weight of massive talent?
I think it's like kind of in some ways like the pinnacle of a Nicolas Cage career, like we were talking about. Like here he's finally arrived where it's kind of like making fun of himself. He's arriving at his Chuck Norris phase, you know. It's like where you embrace the memes and you make the memes yourself, you know. It's like, and so this is kind of like a movie of that, of just leaning into everything that Nic Cage is, and just again going full Nic Cage. Like I said, with his alter ego, and like that he's talking to the whole time. It was just hilarious. Nicky, whatever. And how him and they were like fighting. Got a little weird when they were making out, but it was like,
yeah, that's right.
Making out with yourself. But it's like,
yeah.
It's definitely it's almost like a celebration of Nic Cage.
Yeah.
It's like just you can just, it's a movie just to revel in the caginess of Nic Cage.
Yeah, it's freaking fun. This movie was so great. Just a great time just a great time at home, great time in the theater. I bet. I remember I almost saw this in 2022 because I think 2022 was one of those years that we're doing a bunch of stuff on streaming, but then they took it off streaming, and I got to see a lot of films for some reason in 2022 and 2021, and I almost went to go see this as a double feature. I think I saw. I don't know, but some 2022 film. And then this was going to be right after. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm going to go home. And watching it with you guys, that was great.
Yeah, it's
great
like,
time.
It's like all three of us almost went and saw this in the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick and I were going to go together. And
then it left theaters.
It never materialized. Life got in the way. And then I eventually watched it. Watched it later, but but I mean, it was definitely just as fun seeing it a second time.
Yeah, it's a good time, all right. And Nick, since you're a very massive Nic Cage fan, did it deliver on all aspects? Maybe not.
I'd say not all aspects, but definitely was very Nicolas Cagey. I was in some ways a little disappointed. I wanted a little bit more Nic Cage and the Nic Caginess. I didn't see the alter ego thing coming. That kind of threw me off, I think, a little bit. I wasn't expecting that, but it also, again, is probably very Nicolas Cagey. So it's like, but it's like it was missing a little something to be like the perfect pinnacle of Nicolas Cage, but it got across a lot of who he is, I think, as an actor and all that, which I thought was kind of cool.
And it's also like most likely satirical of his life and his own. He's playing himself, but a characterization of himself. You know?
Yeah, and even like probably even to like the level where in it they're trying to create a movie and trying to create a movie, they're making the movie type thing. It kind of has that same feel as far as the script of the movie. Kind of like a thing like Nicolas Cage sat down and was like, you know what? How am I gonna do my pinnacle of who I am? How am I gonna do the ultimate Chuck Norris movie of maybe a Nicolas Cage movie? And so it kind of has that feel of it, that he kind of threw it together like that. Which I don't think it was bad. I think it was good. Obviously, they're all top actors and actresses and stuff like that overall. But yeah, it definitely was an improvement over Wicker Man as far as acting wise. It's just very much Nicolas Cage, which is
and it was
cool.
a different. Let's see, another side of Nicolas Cage. Like, yeah, we got some crazy in the Wicker Man. We got a good amount of crazy, is what I would assume it to. But we get lots of crazy in this one, and it's I reveled in it. It was really good, and I haven't seen every film he's done. I've only seen. I mean, I grew up watching National Treasure. That's probably the first thing I ever saw him in, or one of the first things I ever saw him in, and that's why I associated with Nic Cage. And then Ghost Rider came out, and so on and so forth. And again, I think in Ghost Rider, from what I remember seeing, I was very little seeing a little bit of that film, but even what I remember seeing, he's a good actor when the role's right. It's just the isms are just so powerful with this guy. It's like it's the force he calls upon, his special talent, we could say, and he just relies on that, and that's what people want from him. But I think generally he is a good actor, and even in National Treasure, like he's not a bad actor at all. Like he's a good leading man. He's doing great. I remember watching just a smidge of Gone in 60 Seconds as a kid, but that's probably gonna have to change soon. So yeah, it makes me want to watch more Nic Cage after watching this movie. That's for sure. And I'm not well versed on the Nic Cages of the world, because there's many different varieties. You got Con Air, you got The Rock, you got Face Off. What was the character he was talking to as his alternate identity? Because
it seemed like almost like a Ghost Rider-ish kind of thing, but it's like I'm not sure if
I don't think it's from a specific movie necessarily.
Really? Yeah.
I think it's just supposed to be like just kind of like a generalized alter ego.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be from something. It could be a reference to a specific character that from a movie I haven't seen but I forgot about or something. But to my knowledge, I don't think there's a character that it's based on. I think it's just a generalized alter ego. Yeah, because it's just kind of like this. Yeah, it's not even really like his younger self necessarily, even though it's digitally altered to make him look younger.
It always looks bad, no matter what movie they do.
Yeah.
You can't do the digital alter to look. It looks bad.
I think, which it kind of works for this because it's not really supposed to be his younger self.
Supposed to be like an imaginary version of it.
It's just more like it's almost like the monster within or something.
Totally,
you know?
The isms, that's what that character
Yeah,
is.
it's like it represents the Nic Cage-isms. It's like the Nic Cage-isms personified.
You are Nick. And he goes on. It's like, whoa. What did you guys think of Pedro Pascal's character?
So good.
Yeah, he's always good in everything. I mean, like this.
Yeah.
Just have him save somebody, He's like, he has to find the golden child, and Pedro's good in everything. This one, the golden child is Nicolas Cage. And he's like,
Yeah, I feel like Pedro Pascal he's. I wouldn't say I love him in everything. I would say he does a more serviceable role in most things that I see him in. Yeah. But in this, he adds a little something special to this one.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It could just be the Pascalisms or something. I don't know. Like, again, he's pretty much really good. Everything I've seen him in, I haven't seen him in everything, but like I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't.
He wasn't
know
that great in Game of Thrones. He was like okay. I mean, he played a cocky
Spanish guy. He was also like in there
guy,
for a little bit, right? Like a season or something. He was in there for like a little bit.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in there for a few episodes or whatever. But yeah, he plays like a cocky Spanish guy, which I mean, it's like okay, but it's not kind of. He doesn't have his gravitas, that he usually has. Like his.
Yeah, it's funny because and then it was like, oh, that's the guy from Game of Thrones, and now that's the guy from Last of Us. It's like
I've met him first in Narcos, the series that they had.
Right.
That's the first time I saw him, and he was decent. He was good in that. It's like
that's what I.
The only thing I saw him that he wasn't that great. I don't think he was that great in Game of Thrones, but in Narcos, man, he was awesome.
I totally forgot about that. I forgot he was in that. And what was the first big thing he was in where we're like, oh, this guy that was in is now in this? What? I can't remember. It wasn't Last of Us. It was right before he did that.
Yeah, it was the other.
I'm trying to think. It was a movie. Let me go to his IMDb real quick.
I just think of the memes now. It's like, just put him in The Witcher. It's like,
yeah. Well, I know that. I mean, I know that his popularity definitely took off after Mandalorian.
That was it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You said movie, so I was like,
I thought it was a movie.
I guess you can't be talking about Mandalorian.
Movie series.
I totally forgot it was the Mandalorian.
Again, Golden Child, and
Golden Child. He's always. And and he was also in Kingsman, the second one. Was that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Jack Daniels or something like that.
Whiskey. Whiskey. Which I've seen, I think half of that. And dude, he's great. Like, I don't know. You guys didn't see Gladiator 2, right?
No, I've not yet. No.
He's really good in Gladiator 2. Like, also that film's kind of interesting. Like, we watched Gladiator last time you were on, Nick, and after seeing Gladiator 2, like, it was funny because we watched Gladiator, and then I went to go see the second one, like, literally the next day with Angela.
That's a good way to do it.
And I was like, oh, okay. It was definitely not as good as the first one, but it's worth the watch, I'd say.
Okay.
100%. So, the ship fight scene is, as weird as it is, it's pretty dang cool. So
okay.
But yeah, Last of Us, The Mandalorian, of course. But yeah, it's so funny. I totally forgot about Narcos, and he was the bad guy in the terrible Wonder Woman movie.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Oh, in Wonder Woman 1984.
1984, yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Because it was like, I think it was Mandalorian. And then he was in that, and everybody's like, "Who? What?
That wasn't a great role for him." I was like,
that wasn't a great role for anyone.
And why is he always memed? Have you noticed that? Like in Wonder Woman, he's like memed because he's like, "Hey, it's not better, but it's the future," or something like that. And then like the Mandalorian, of course, with all the Grogu stuff. But then you get, of course, this movie with.
Yeah, I love that the scene is just the meme.
It's just exactly.
The meme. It's Nicolas Cage and this crazy face, and then like
he's like,
and then he's like, like a dog with his head out the window.
Like there's some meme movie scenes where it's like they're only in the meme pose for a fraction of a second, like the
DiCaprio ones or whatever.
Like the
Gatsby.
What's the one I'm thinking of? Tarantino movie.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No.
Django
Unchained.
Yeah.
He's in that meme pose for like a second.
Yeah.
In that movie. But then this one is like the whole scene is just the meme played out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once you find out that they're on LSD, it makes a lot more sense because at first you're like, what the heck is this scene about? And like when you watch the movie, you're like,
that makes a lot of sense.
A lot more sense because I was like, why the heck are they looking so weird?
I always thought like just out of total context, I'm like, is it because they watch Paddington 2?
It's like honestly, if you fed the meme into like an AI model and told it to create a video, it'd probably create something very close to that scene in that in that movie, which is kind of interesting when you think about it.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, I gotta say, like, I know Pedro Pascal was a great actor, but this is kind of, after seeing him in this, it cemented him as like a fantastic actor. Like he is, I think it's specifically the character itself is really, I think the character itself is really well put together. And I think he brings a really unique, he's just very talented, and he brings that talent to this role. And he's just, I think, the best character of the film. Like, I love Nicolas Cage, but to him bounce off of this guy, who's also just part of the cartel as well, is just amazing. Like, and what a funny concept of this film too. Like, an actor playing himself who's going along with a fan, and then there's cartels involved. Like, what? That sounds awesome. So I remember when they were first filming this, I think it was 2021 they were filming it. And then, or they were going to do it and then COVID hit, they had to delay it. But I remember hearing the concept, I'm like, what? What? And it was just what I was saying earlier. I'm like, what the heck? This sounds awesome. And Nicolas Cage is on board?
Yeah.
Let's do it, you know? Oh, shoot. I totally forgot where I was going to go after that, but I guess we'll just get into the trivia. Oh, unless you guys have anything else. And we'll get into it. So, all right. Number 1, at the end of principal photography of the film, the whole cast was gifted a pillow with Nicolas Cage's face on it. Each one autographed by him.
I kind of want one of those. I'm not gonna lie.
Probably on eBay.
I hate throw pillows, but that would be a throw pillow.
Your wife would not appreciate that.
Nicolas Cage right there in the middle of my bed.
Some weeb, she'd be like, anime girls, and
she'd
you
be
have
like,
Nicolas
that's not going on our film. I can just see her in my mind.
You get it for your birthday, and you just put it on the bed and leave it. And don't tell her about it. And then it's like facing towards the door. She opens the door. She's like, "What the heck is that, honey? What? Get out of here!" Oh man,
me and Nick need a moment.
Number 2, Nicolas Cage was against the idea of playing himself, turning down several offers. I'm guessing several offers throughout the years, but changed his mind after reading a letter from Tom Gormican, the guy who wrote and directed this, and that was attached to the script. So he wrote a letter, and somehow it sold him on the film. So that's kind of cool. I remember, I think I mentioned this. Oh no, that's right. The audio died when we were doing that. Because when me and Angie did the peak analysis of Haunting of Hill House, it's 4 hours. It's like the longest podcast we ever done. We actually recorded for like 5.5 hours. Like we started, I think, at 6:30, and it was 11 when we got over. And I'm like, dang, this is a long ass show. But it actually died like after we got done with talking about the last episode, and we rambled for like another hour just talking about the podcast and random stuff. And I was talking about Mike Flanagan, and he pitched Stephen King, the guy who did Haunted Hill House. Yeah. He pitched to Stephen King his concept for a Dark Tower show. Or a Dark Tower series of movies, which is now happening because Stephen King was so impressed with the concept of the letter and his pitch that he just gave him the rights. It's like, dang, that's kind of cool. So we'll probably see that in like the 2030s. So I don't think it's coming out anytime soon. But anyway, where was I? Number 3, Nicolas Cage thought Javi was the best written character in the movie. So much so, he even asked to trade parts, as he thought playing his own biggest fan was more meta than playing himself.
That would be funny and odd in some ways. It's like that might have been the twist that we needed.
Maybe. I honestly don't see how that would have worked.
No, too weird. Even weird.
Yeah, it wasn't until Pedro Pascal was cast that Cage eventually relented that option. So, all right, number 4, Pedro Pascal wrecked 14 prop cars during the acid trip running scene, where he was required to bounce off the hood of a car. And he was not injured during the stunt. So, dang, he did it like 14 times.
Stunt too.
Yeah, wow.
Tom Cruise.
Did you say Tom Brady? All right, number 5, a sequence involved, and this breaks my heart, but a sequence involving Nicolas Cage reprising some of his most iconic roles like Face Off, Con Air, Leaving Las Vegas, and Gone in 60 Seconds, in a black and white fight sequence between him and his younger self in a surrealist German expressionist set evoking that of the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, was cut from the film as the studio thought it didn't fit the third act. According to Cage, the deleted scene will be released on home media, which really makes me want to get that Blu-ray. And I YouTubed it, and there's nothing to be found.
So that fight scene actually was longer, huh? So that's what they're saying, where he was fighting himself? Or is there another fight?
Was he fighting himself?
Yeah, there was a fight.
Well, there was a brief,
like punch or something?
Yeah. There is a brief scene where he confronts himself and his alter ego punches him and then walks away.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that would be longer and with 4 different Nic Cages.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be so cool.
Get all
that would probably cemented it for me. Be like, all right, this is just a masterpiece.
Yeah, that definitely needed to happen. I don't know why they cut that out, because that's what really needed to happen in the third act. Is he needed a scene where it showed him overcoming the alter ego to become a more responsible father and husband and all that.
That's probably what would have saved the third act for me. Imagine he's him and the wife in the end are like in the tunnels, like trying to find the daughter. Imagine if instead of the wife was there, maybe they get separated or whatever. Instead of the wife, it's his alter ego or somebody himself from another film say no, or like The Rock, no, we got to get out of here. Let's go. No, I got to save my daughter, or something silly like that.
I was waiting for him to do some Rock quotes in there.
Like, can you imagine if Pedro Pascal quoted the thing that Sean Connery says about the prom queen? Like, that would have been awesome. He's like, shut up. Like no, you shut up. Like, that would have been great. But yeah, you're right. Something, I think, I agree with you, Nick, and I think, David, you mentioned as well. There was something missing from this film. Just a little bit more fan service, I guess you could equate it to.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
Something else that's an element of not just isms, but the embodiment of those isms. I feel like those Cage-isms. So
yeah, honestly, the idea of a Nicolas Cage like 4-way fight in a German impressionist setting would have been the perfect like penultimate sort of moment for this movie.
You could even have it, instead of cutting to the actual film in the end, you could have it be like, instead, like him like losing it as he's holding the other guy hostage with the gun. He could totally envision it as himself as one of the characters, and then he just has a fight. And then it could have him just cut back to him being pointing the gun, and then we cut to the film or something.
Yeah.
Like, something could have happened like that. They could have done it in different ways, but they only have so much time and money, I guess. But dude, missed opportunity. So, and dude, imagine if this was like, for some reason, it made like 200 million and was super successful. Imagine if we got a second Massive Talent, like, and then like randomly it's oh shoot, what's the dude from Baywatch?
Hasselhoff?
Yeah, Hasselhoff. It's about Hasselhoff or something like that, or a couple actors that are known for
He's
that.
getting pretty old looking, though.
You know, like, imagine if it was Hasselhoff and another actor coming in and helping Nic Cage with something else. It could have been. Yeah, maybe something was there probably, but
Jake's gonna do the spinoff.
I mean, do the fan film of Nic Cage. David, you down? The role of Hasselhoff is just sitting there, David. Who would Justin play? Oh, Paul Harvey. Yeah, I'll put Paul Harvey in there. Oh, the beekeeper. Yes.
You're bringing the bees. Jessica being the bee guy.
Oh, man. Were you going to say something, David? I think I interrupted you.
Was I? No.
Moving on. All right, number 7. According to Neil Patrick Harris, Nicolas Cage had body makeup to cover his tattoos. This is all hearsay. When he asked Cage why Nic Cage, the character, doesn't have the tattoos Nicolas Cage, the real person, has, Cage said the character didn't have as many wives as him.
Oh.
So, all right.
Fair. So he has tattoos for his wives, huh?
I guess so, yeah. Because he does have tattoos. I've seen him in interviees. He does have them, I think it's on his arms. And some on collarbone maybe, but...
interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that he was trying to play a more, shall we say, monogamous version of himself.
Fair.
Just so that there's a more
that kind of coherent
like
story,
that,
maybe?
just that, so that the idea of the connection he's forging with his daughter and his ex-wife seems more close. You know, because if there's
totally.
Because if there's just, you know, if it's the real Nic Cage and we know there's all these other people in the picture, doesn't really mean as much.
Yeah. You could have also incorporated the alternate versions of him if they introduced the wife concept, multiple wives concept that he had. Like, you could have had flashbacks of him and the Con Air outfit talking to his first wife or second wife, you know, like
each character.
And then those characters come back in the end or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, this film could have gone in so many different directions. And ultimately, I think it did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
It needed a little something extra for the third act, but for the most part, I think it went in the direction that it needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely good tribute.
Yeah, and like also the weakest aspect to me of this film was probably the CIA agents, like Tiffany Haddish and the other dude, like they just were kind of there for plot's sake, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And they kind of didn't mean anything in the end of the film. So it kind of just wasted, but they got the job done, you know? So,
yeah, it wasn't interesting. Other line.
Yeah, they tried
to.
They tried to make it. They tried to make something out of the interplay between the agents, but Yeah, it didn't really add as much as maybe they hoped it would have.
Yeah, the only funny thing was like when he accidentally touched himself and like passed out, and then she says action, the action or whatever, snapping out of it. He's like, that was like the only funny part of or tying with them.
Yeah, and it was weird how like the family was randomly brought in, but then they're the reason the third act is happening.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of weird. Like, okay, why are they even here? And then it's like, oh, this is what the film's about, I guess. So, all right, sounds good. I'd love more romance moments, but
it was supposed to be the reason why the family's brought in is because it's supposed to make him think that Pedro Pascal is the drug lord. Because so basically, and this is what Nic Cage's character perceives when he sees his family after what he's been told about this guy. Yeah. He's like, oh God, he brought my family here to blackmail me, and he's going to hurt them if I don't, comply with his wishes. But the whole reason they were brought there is completely innocent because Pedro Pascal just wanted them to work out whatever they need to work out so they could go back to working on their script,
Yeah. And he loves his family. He's like, he's like, or he loves Nic Cage so much. He wants his family to be better, So.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. He's like, oh, this is going to be like a lot more work than I thought.
Again, Pedro kills it.
Yeah.
Like, he's so good in this. We'll see how he is in Fantastic Four, which has to do with family. And speaking of family, see, segue, we talked about the family, Within the film, number 8, Nicolas Cage has a daughter. In actuality, when the movie was shot, he had 2 sons, Weston at age 30, and I'm not lying, guys, Kal-El at 15. And his first daughter...
Superman?
Yeah. And his first daughter was born in 2022. Dude, you know why? It's just total spitball, but you know why he named his kid Kal-El?
No clue.
Because him and Tim Burton were going to be Superman Lives, remember?
What?
You remember this?
No.
Nicolas Cage? Yeah, Nic Cage was going to be Superman.
Oh, I don't remember this.
That would have been...
Yeah, there's there's behind the scenes of it. Kevin Smith penning the script and everything.
That would have been
weird.
Yeah, dude.
Mind blowing,
Tim
mind altering.
Burton produced, Kevin Smith directed and written Superman movie as Nic Cage as Superman. It was going to be called Superman Lives or something. You never heard of this? Dude. No. Not even Red Letter Media talked about it?
Not that I've seen.
Bro, you gotta go watch some video essays after this podcast. I don't think he could
pull off a Superman.
No, he wouldn't. And this was also like 99.
Okay.
Or 2000 when it was going to happen. And they pulled the plug. But there's like photos and video of Nic Cage in a test suit. And you can go find. I'll probably put it in the thumbnail too.
Look that up.
It's interesting. I was like, dude, what? And then Kevin Smith has talked about it before. If you ever seen just random interviews throughout the years, he's mentioned it. Like, yeah, it was coming together, but not really. So we're kind of glad it got pulled. I think that's inevitable. I think that's his last word on it. Has been like, yeah, I'm kind of glad it didn't happen. So anyway. All right. Let's see. Number 9, and then we're almost done. When Nick tells the CIA that he doesn't believe that Javi is an arms dealer, he cites his how do you say this?
Yeah.
Nuveo shamanic is shaman. So shamanic acting ability as reason why he can read people so well. In real life, Nuevo shamanic is a term that Nicolas Cage came up with to describe his own acting style.
That's like perfect.
And he has made numerous references to it during interviews over the years.
Holy crap.
So he's leaning into his own Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
This is so awesome.
That's funny.
This is terrible. This is the last one. But number 10, the stand-in who smooches Nic Cage was Darren Keith, who said, "This was the opportunity of a lifetime and a highlight of my career."
Which is funny because I kind of tie that in with Neil Patrick Harris, with this whole thing. I could try to convince him to do the different things or whatever. And it's like,
dude. Oh, man. Well, barring full spoilers, what are your guys' final thoughts on The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? I'm going to pass it over to you, David. What's your final thoughts about this movie here? About Nic Cage playing Nic Cage and playing Pedro Pascal, playing the call boss, and the drug lord, and whatever.
Yeah. This movie could have gone in so many different directions. it could have been such an awful movie too.
Yeah.
But they really, really did a good job. Like, I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie, but they did a really, really good job of not going off into, La La Land with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I say going off into La La Land, but there's plenty of crazy stuff. But, like, it's crazy stuff that works.
Yeah.
Not weird stuff that wouldn't work, like Nic Cage's Superman.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me in this film is the humor.
Mhm.
The humor was written, and it had just a not right amount of it, with excellent delivery from both parties of Nick and what's his name? Pedro Pascal, and even Tiffany Haddish had a couple funny stuff in there. But I think overall the humor really just struck a tone with me personally, as well as it's just freaking so fun to watch. And it's like, it's really well done for what it is. Like, it's kind of like, oh, this could be like a Swimming in Sevens movie, which I could totally see why people would give this like a 5 out of 10 or something like that, which I saw some people during the time this was released give it like a 5 or a 6 or a 4. Like, it's okay, or it's not that good. But I would say it's Swimming in Sevens for me, but personally, I'd give it an 8. Like, it's up there for me. Like, I like it more than I think I would recommend it for people, but I just really, really like this movie.
I mean, it's a great movie. One thing too is I've always thought of this movie is for me, it kind of like carves out its own niche in the, in the realm of like possible film subgenres.
Yeah.
Because you have your rom-com, your comedy romance movie, right? And there's plenty of those. And then later on you had the like stuff like Mr. and Mrs. Smith that was supposed to be the quote unquote action rom-com.
Yeah.
And this is almost like what I would call the action brom-com, because instead of the romance between a man and a woman being central to it, it's the bromance,
Totally.
the friendship between Pedro Pascal and Nic Cage. That's kind of the central element to it.
Yeah.
But also has plenty of action elements to go along with it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if like brocoms or whatever come out of it, because like you said, it definitely has that vibe of how much is like, I just love you because you're Nicolas Cage, which is like the more Nicolas Cage fan you are, the more that like speaks to you. Like, yes. Which again is like the funny, because again he pretty much plays like a very similar role to everything and everything. He's just Nicolas Cage. Like I said, he is who he is. So that's kind of cool. I think like we were talking about, this gives definitely a good nod in that direction as far as like encouraging that like this. If you like Nicolas Cage, you're gonna like this movie. If you don't like Nicolas Cage, I think there's still some stuff you could enjoy in it. It's like it's definitely interesting.
Even the plot itself is kind of unique in that sense. And like you said, David, the genre, this is like a very meta movie, you could say. And I think that's a very like that's a genre that's not explored at all, or if not even was a thing at all. But it's really works with this. And I think
you really don't like. I mean, there's plenty of like buddy cop action films, but nothing like this where it's like a true like bromance.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say probably close to that would be like Expendables or something like that, where they're kind of making fun of their own superhero movie,
maybe
superhero movies a little bit, but still not quite the same, because it doesn't have it's
kind of campy a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same character interplay.
Totally, yeah.
Because like, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like the interplay between Nic Cage and Pedro Pascal is like the beating heart of this movie.
Yeah, it's the beating heart.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like one of those things that's like, an actor meeting an adoring fan is one of those scenarios that is absolutely unlikely to produce any kind of lasting friendships, and yet they have this like connection that this like clear connection that grows and grows and grows throughout the movie. That's really, really, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that they kept it as a bromance and then try to like make it all gay or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's as far as that, they're very good at keeping that as just like, I just really love this guy, for who he is type things. Like, it's like, and didn't have the relationship. They actually said they threw a little bit in there with his alter ego, him kissing himself.
Yeah,
like,
but that plays to it.
That plays to it again. Your narcissistic tendencies and like that. If you see yourself so beautiful, you're like, of course.
Yeah, there's a whole point to it.
Yeah.
That whole alter ego thing was supposed to be twisted anyway.
Totally, yeah.
But so this
Show the
does
unhealthiness.
this the actual relationship between Nic Cage and Pedro Pascal though is very healthy.
Yeah.
It's very natural. It's they resisted the urge to go with the spirit of the age and try to make it a gay thing.
Yeah, totally.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah,
because it's so easy to fall into that, but they did a good job of just straying away from it. Like, that's not what this is about. This is clearly about
Romance,
Nic Cage and his adoring fan from Oblivion, like that adoring fan you get in the game. Like, Azura's right, Azura's right.
Except the great thing about this is like it actually develops into a true friendship.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's not the kind of thing that normally happens. When an actor meets an adoring fan, most of the time it's usually nothing good can usually come from that. Mm-hmm. But in this, they meet, even though Nic Cage doesn't want to do it, but then this friendship blossoms and all of a sudden they're no longer actor and fan, they're equals.
Yeah.
And he's trying to better his life too. It's like he brought his family in because he wanted him to work through this. I mean, obviously, he had ulterior motives too, but you sensed it was more that he wanted him to be able to reconnect with his family, which is part of the reason why he brought it in, not just to do the movie part. I mean, he wanted that too, but he's like, this obviously is something that's troubling you. So he's like, I'm going to help you with this intervention. Bringing your family here, and we're gonna have this beautiful moment. It's like, and so it's much more of the from the heart type thing versus trying to manipulate it or whatever.
You guys have really made me realize that I think the thing I like most about this film is the sincerity of it all.
Totally.
Like, again, yeah, you're right. That you guys are right. That friendship is kind of the heart and soul of this movie, and doesn't go gay. It's just a bromance that is like in every sense of the word, just bro, like my bro,
Exactly.
So. Oh, and we got a Croods 2 drop so random in the movie. I love you in
Do I look like a guy who watches Croods 2?
I love that. That was the one part I really liked about the agent interplay thing. It's like, she's like, on the little comm thing, she's like, have you ever seen Croods 2? And he's like, I'm 44 years old. Why would I have seen Croods 2?
That was funny. That's probably one of the best lines from the CIA.
Yeah, so when we were watching this too, so random. If you're interested in watching this, I don't know what streaming service it's going to go to, because we watched it on Netflix, which has been on there for years. But it's leaving literally in 2 weeks as of the airing of this podcast. So it's probably not on there anymore, but track it down. It's worth a buy. 100%. I would go and I want to get the Blu-ray. I want to see that fight scene if it even is on the home video version.
So that actually got filmed?
According to Nicolas Cage.
Oh man.
But it's not on YouTube anywhere. I couldn't find it on YouTube.
It could just be that there's
copyright
or that there's not enough interest in this movie. Because it was a box office bomb.
Yeah.
I don't think it deserved to be a box office bomb, but for whatever reason, the wider culture did not engage with it in the same way that we did.
It's funny how the internet culture took The Wicker Man and just carried off into the sunset of internet fame. And this film is nearly probably way less popular than Wicker Man.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a meme template out of it.
Yeah, we got a
meme.
Totally.
It means way more popular.
That's true.
But I feel like we could have gotten more. We could have gotten more.
Yeah, because I remember going to the theater and I'm like, I want to go see this, but I'm too tired. I'm going to go home. Because I was going to do some double featuring to get my money's worth, driving 20 minutes and going to see a movie. And I'm like, for the gas. And I'm like, well, nah. Then I went home and then you guys were going to go see it. And I'm like, oh, I'll go with you, tentatively. And then boom, it's out of theaters after a week or two. It's gone. It's like, oh, really, guys? And it was September. It wasn't even that busy. It's like, oh, well. But hey, we got a fantastic movie out of it. And they were smart with the script too. I thought bringing in the family was kind of but then having them have it be the third act, as well as, dude, the part where Pedro Pascal and Nic Cage are gonna kill each other, but they both say, they both pull the guns on each other. It's like, wait, I was gonna kill you. No, wait, why? And then they both explain. They're like, what? No way. And then like, dude, the loafers and the whole joke.
Yeah,
the shoes.
Changing shoes. Yeah, those look amazing. No, these look amazing on you.
And
too.
it's not like also it's not like super raunchy.
No.
Like there's
it's the bromance part of it,
but the bromance part is just it's just like a couple dudes just hanging out. It's so much fun. So
doing typical bromance dude stuff. I mean,
you guys have any final thoughts on the unbearable weight of massive talent?
The only thing I can think of is commenting on when he was in full disguise as the cartel guy or whatever.
Dude,
like his little like strut, like he was doing when he was like, dude, it's like, what the hell are you doing, man?
I thought that was so random and out of nowhere. Yeah, it was like I was writing notes and I was like, guys, wait, what's happening?
Exactly. It's like,
and I'm like, is he supposed to be Pedro Pascal? But that makes no sense. What's happening?
I mean, to be fair, it's if you weren't really paying attention, like moments before that scene happened, you would have missed the setup for it.
Yeah.
So that was another flaw of the movie is they set it up, but it was like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because it's basically was like this, 30-second conversation. Pedro Pascal saying it's like, oh, nobody's seen this guy in 15 years, right? Nobody, they don't know what he looks like. And you, pointing to Nic Cage's wife, you have you were a makeup artist and
that's right.
prosthetics, right? And then we have the actor right here, and and then next scene it cuts to just him.
Gumby.
Oh man, what a good set of movies. Thank you, Nick, and David for both suggesting this.
I enjoy most Nicolas Cage movies. So
have you seen, what was the one that was mentioned earlier? It was,
I was thinking about like the one that he seems kind of like, at least
Leaving Las Vegas. What is that even?
I've seen that. It's not that great of a movie.
Oh, okay.
It's, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of
dumb.
Yeah. It all takes place in a Las Vegas hotel room. They're trying to get out of there. I can't remember if they win money or he steals money or something like that, but it's one of those. Spoiler alert. I think they all end up dying at the end. So it's
any Nic Cageisms, notable ones in there?
Not that I remember. It's definitely a really weird one. It's another one where he tries to play kind of normal. One where he does play kind of normal. I mean, not really, but Matchstick Men is actually a good one that he was in, where he plays a kind of quasi normal. He's a OCD or whatever. He has to do like the multiple doors, things like that. But he's a con man, and actually that's one of the few movies where he plays a normal, quote unquote, kind of guy, and he actually pulls it off pretty well.
We need to sit down and watch Con Air because I've always seen bits of it, but never.
Oh,
ever,
dude,
ever
the opening scene with the Con Air and it's like the chick that gets kidnapped, like watching the movie, like, oh, I love Nic Cage.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
And then, and then the like thugs bust in, and then the music transitions from being like in the background as if it's on the TV, as if it's just playing on the TV screen, to being like loud in your face, like the actual soundtrack of the scene.
Yeah,
and it's so absurd.
That scene, I definitely had a lot of like Taken vibes from it because it's like Paris or whatever like that. It's like, so it has a lot of the kind of the apartment scene, fights and stuff like that. So it's, when they kidnap his daughter and all that, it's like,
that was another thing hilarious. Too, is the music in this movie is out of this world.
Oh, yeah, it's
just so bizarre.
So it's all over the place. Because you even got the spaghetti westerns like you were talking about. They had that little bit in there. Yeah, I can't remember which part was like in the middle of the movie. They throw like a spaghetti western little theme in there, and just like they have all. It covers a whole gambit of different genres of music in different parts.
Thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot I mentioned that because the whole plot of this film is kind of like, if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and this really happened in Hollywood, where a bunch of very notable actors, but were losing fame, went over to Europe, to Italy and Spain to be in like spaghetti westerns, and for money and for fame and for like to get more notoriety, but kind of like that was looked down upon. And saying, oh, well, he's down and out in Hollywood. And that's what whole Once Upon a Time Hollywood is about. But in this, it's funny how this is like basically the main plot. And he's like down and out. He's like, oh, there's this guy. He's from Spain. What? Okay. And then he takes it. And then like when he gets on the boat and he's like, I'm going to have to do this and this and this. And he's like, actually, I'm Javi. And he's like,
Oh. yeah, the whole
and what's that?
Bowing to each other.
And what's that from? Is that from anything?
A type of martial arts? I think I can't remember which one.
No, like one of his movies.
Oh,
is it from any of them?
Not that I've seen. None of the ones I've seen. I try to think. There is a I was looking through his thing. I think there's a jujitsu movie he does where it's called Jujitsu or something like that, which I had never seen. As like, because I was looking through his film, all the film stuff. I was like, dang, there's a lot of Nicolas Cage movies I haven't seen. It's like, I mean, imagine they're all not that great, but I was like, yeah. But it's Nicolas Cage. So
I mean, he's an incredibly prolific actor. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much like. There's very few people I think that eclipse him in terms of like how many movies they've been in.
Totally.
And it's people like Sam Jackson and stuff.
That's what the second Unbearable Weight could have been about. Liam Neeson and Samuel L. Jackson. There you go. It's all written for you. All right. Well, I'm glad this film was made. I think we're in a better world with The Wicker Man and this movie as well. So
I don't know about The Wicker Man, but
we got to talk about it on the podcast. So. All right, well, without further ado, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, again for listening to yet another episode of the Snarp Fangle Podcast and another episode in our 2 films. We appreciate you guys and all the time you take to listen to us and just the valuable time out of your day. You guys are awesome. And thank you again, Nick, for being here to discuss good old Nic Cage, which in the film it's Nick. And in real life, it's actually Nic, so which is hilarious. It's like, oh, no, it's a character. So... And again, thank you, David, for being you, being just the best thing you are, which is you. So anyway, thank you, audience, again, and we'll see you on another one. And don't forget to snarp fangle on.
Bye-bye now.